Hello, I'm Troy Abels from Hanford, California, and you are listening to Gospel Tangents.
Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. We're finishing our conversation with Michael Marquardt. In our final conversation, we'll talk about early missionary accounts. What did they teach to prospective new converts? Michael will answer that question, and we'll also talk about the calling of the first apostles. Michael's helped write a book called The Lost Apostles on that topic. So it can be a fun conversation. We'll also talk about the community of Christ. Do they believe that the church was founded in Manchester or Fayette? It's going to be a fun conversation. I hope you check it out. I'd also like to encourage you to send me an email to gospeltangents@gmail.com. Please send me a short clip of who you are and say something like, "I love Gospel Tangents," or something like that. We'll use that as a liner in our upcoming videos. Thanks again. Now back to our conversation.
And I should mention that, when these missionaries went out to preach, in like 1832, for an example, because you ask about, priesthood, Orson Pratt in his journal mentions that, periodically he talked about priesthood, because authority basically is priesthood anyway. But these early elders, we know what they preached, so it doesn't matter that maybe they preached this or maybe they preached that, because we have newspaper accounts of what they're actually preaching at the time, mainly Book of Mormon, when they went to the homes, New Testament. So it's as the organization gets larger, and like if you add a high council for like Kirkland, then you add a traveling high council.
Yeah, that's something we don't have anymore. Wait, the traveling high council is the apostles, right?
Right.
And then the high council is what we don't have anymore.
Not of a church high council.
Yeah, a church high council. I know the community of Christ still has that, but the LDS church does not have that.
So what the LDS church has is high councils within their stake.
Right.
And just like high priest quorum, used to have, president of a high priest quorum, like Don Carlos Smith was president of a high priest quorum. But these things have changed. You used to have a patriarch, either to or over the church.
Mm-hmm.
But that, that is not, that has been done away with. You have stake patriarchs. So your things have changed. Your times, worships have changed. Songs have changed. I mean, it was everything. But it's all based upon all these different, Restoration churches now, because we have the largest one, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, says April 6th. We have the Community of Christ, April 6th. But of course, we have to give credit to Mark Shear, because he mentions that, yes, the church was organized in Manchester. That's in his first volume of
Oh, really?
3, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. That's cool.
Yeah,
I know Mark. Mark's a good guy.
Yes, and he mentioned that we have the Church of Jesus Christ, headquartered, established in Pennsylvania, Monongahela, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
In fact, their name is incorporated.
Yeah.
The Church of Jesus Christ. They go back to April 6th. We have Restoration churches. We have the long name of the church, Strangites, following James Strang. Going back to April 6th, but how do they know where it was organized? Well, the earliest we have is from the Evening and Morning Star. We have the Revelations, and we have the baptism. I don't know. Even though we don't have minutes, so you have to agree on. There's no minutes there. Copies of Revelations doesn't really matter when you get the final result.
Mm-hmm.
But person who was involved, for example, Oliver Cowdery, who was told to assist W.W. Phelps, and of course Phelps was told to assist Oliver Cowdery, and so most of the histories, say that the church was organized in Fayette, but there has been, other scholars who have actually, seen that there's enough evidence for a number of reasons.
So, and Mark Shearer is one who says that it was in Manchester.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's in his first volume, but he's just one. There's other people have indicated that. You have...
Isn't he was the historian, or assistant church historian for the Community of Christ, Mark?
He was a world church historian. He's is not in that position.
Yeah, I knew
today.
he wasn't anymore, but he used to be, yeah.
Yeah, so, over a little thing, people are getting excited about this. But if you're worrying about the name of the church, you're worrying about the dates, you may be interested in location, the current 2013 Doctrine and Covenants of the LDS Church. I mean, they have some corrected dates, but they have also changes in the revelations. And there is one revelation dealing with rebaptism in the current Doctrine and Covenants that said it was given in April of 1830 in Manchester, but it was actually given according to the Book of Commandments in Fayette. So you find all these things. There used to be a lot of these things, even the manuscript history of the church, since they thought that the second conference was probably September 1st. So they had to get, Joseph Smith as the church leader up to Fayette to attend the conference. And so they, some of these dates have slowly maneuvered, and so they're 25 days off. Because they didn't have a record that it was actually later in the month. And but that's what a historian does, is try to, best as possible, piece together these little things, little minutes, the recollection. If we didn't have the recollection on a lot of this stuff, we probably wouldn't know for certain. There was no church list of baptisms, except there must have been something for that manuscript history.
All right. Well, so the last question I just wanted to ask you really quick. You've mentioned several times the Articles and Covenants. So can you tell us a little bit more what that is? It's not something I've heard of it, but I'm not super familiar with it.
Yeah. Well, we'll back up to 1829, and that's when Oliver Cowdery received a commandment that included what he considered the Articles and Covenants of the Church, and it laid out the prayers for baptism, the sacramental prayers, then of course the name of the church. It said the church would be the Church of Christ. So that was in 1829. And then in 1830, prior to the first conference, the elders got together and composed the beliefs of the church. And they would, the first portions you'd be able to read, and they end with like Amen. They mentioned Christ died and was raised 3 days later. It was just explaining the early beliefs of the church. It mentions the duties of the elders, teachers, priests.
That would be section 20 now, right?
Yes, but that section has also been added to in 1835.
Okay.
So, for example, it would also mention the office of high priest, high counselor. It would not mention the office of apostle in the sense of member of a quorum of the 12. And the reason is because that change was done, prior to their ordination in 1835. So, anyway, that's the Articles and Covenants. It's sort of like the rules and regulations of the church. So when they wrote out a license, they would in essence say that they were ordained agreeable to the Articles and Covenants of the church. And so in those early licenses, you would find April 6, 1830, but you wouldn't find any location at all. And you wouldn't find, you asked about priesthood, it wouldn't find about priesthood either. But they were, that's their license to preach. And there are a few that were given on June 9th, 1830 at the very first church conference that are still in existence. And so that's why we know about how that works. But these things are just, I like to see the things get corrected. I mean, some small things, for example, like, what's the date that Brigham Young was baptized? Well, it's April 9th, 1830.
Oh, it was? It was that early?
Oh, 1832.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't think he was that early, yeah.
Well, that's how you have to worry about it. If you get a few things wrong, like a year, month, day.
Yeah.
But but even his journal and his damaged elder license gives that date, April 9th, 1832.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets to what now is Utah Territory, it becomes April 14th or maybe April 15th. But we have his earlier stuff. It's just hard to get things corrected over time. And if you get a larger organization, it's harder to, when they publish in books and histories, it's hard to get that thing down. You don't have enough people going over it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but the early history, I think, is the interesting ones, the ones that people who were there would understand. So the revelations, if the revelations years later are modified, that's one thing. But the early people at the time would not have heard that modification. And there's always reasons why they're modified, but still, it's not the revelation given at that time and place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, time, place, baptisms, revelations, it's all interested. So for those that have April 6, 1830, I guess they'll be discussing that or not for some time.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. Well, Michael, I really appreciate you spending so much time here on Gospel Tangents. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share here before I let you go?
Well, just that I appreciate, Rick, that you asked me some time ago. And,
it has been a while.
and I figure that, yes, it's the right time. That was at the Sunstone Symposium.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to give papers there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a pleasure to, discuss these things.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you.
I love it. So, all right. Well, Michael Marquardt, thank you for participating here on Gospel Tangents. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Michael Marquardt. I'd like to thank Michael for spending so much time talking with us. It was a really fun conversation, Michael, and I've gotten a lot of fun comments so far already. So thanks again for your interesting conversation. I'd also like to introduce Richard Turley. He's the Director of Public Affairs at the LDS Church, and we'll talk about his latest book called Saints.
So unlike a lot of histories which are just somewhat expository, this one's narrative, which means it's deliberately intended to be engaging to the reader. The content is extraordinarily accurate history that's been source-checked repeatedly, and you can find the sources in the back of the book. But it's also written in a very engaging style, so it has already become by perhaps an order of magnitude, the single most read history in the history of the church.
We'll have a transcript out shortly on this conversation, and you can purchase individual copies at our website at gospeltangents.com/shop. If you want to be the first to get a copy, please subscribe on our website for just $10 a month. I'll send it to you first as a PDF. Or if you'd like a physical copy, for $15 a month, I'll be happy to send that to you as well. You can get our transcripts at our Amazon.com author page. I've got a link here, but just do a search for Gospel Tangents interview and you should be able to find a bunch of them there. Please subscribe at patreon.com/gospeltangents. For $5 a month, you can hear the entire interview uncut. And for $10, you can get a PDF copy. We've also got a $15 tier where if you want a physical copy, I'll be the first to send it to you. So please subscribe at Patreon or on our website at gospeltangents.com as well. For our latest updates, please like our page at facebook.com/gospeltangents. And also check our Twitter updates at Gospel Tangents as well. Please subscribe on our Apple Podcasts page at tinyurl.com/gospeltangents, or you can subscribe on your Android device. Just do a search for Gospel Tangents. Thanks again for listening. Click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here we've got some more of our great videos. Thanks again.